Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Solo audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We're recording this at 10 p.m. on the dot, Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on Saturday, July 25, 2026. It's a little bit warm, hence the title. I have written out some notes for today, so it's not off the cuff. The title, Hot Vegas. We're having a little heat wave, which is totally expected in a desert, but people are making a big thing of it. Heat warnings and all kinds of other good times. So be careful. Heat warning. I think it's supposed to be 115 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow, Sunday, July 26th. Yay. When I was moving to Phoenix again from Silicon Valley, so it was in June. I think it was in June. Yeah, it was in June of 2001. I was moving with my college roommate who was also living in San Francisco. I'm sorry, in Sunnyvale, where I was living. So I had known him for quite some time. And so he helped me move. We packed up the truck. It was like a 25. I had acquired a lot of stuff in my time at Silicon Valley. And I moved to Phoenix. And when we arrived in Phoenix to unpack or unload my truck of precious things, they were having a cool wave, and it was like 95 degrees or something. And he was like, "Oh, I thought it would be a lot worse." And then I think we were heading to the airport. I think it was. I think we probably flew back to San Jose Airport, and it was 118 degrees. And he was like, "This is unbearable." I said, "Yeah, this is like a normal summer." That cool wave was very unusual. So yeah, it's 115 high tomorrow. I saw some headline that there was going to be a heat dome of unparalleled height and heat floating over the Rockies or the plains, or so. I mean, I'm sure it's going to make it very hot here in Vegas. So interesting times. Hot Vegas. Hot Vegas. It's episode 2026-07-2501. Of course, that is 2026, the year, 07, July 25, today, and 01, the first and likely only episode of today, of course. I have done 02 before, so a second episode in the same day. I should make shorter episodes that are more focused, but this one will be wandering around a little bit, as usual. If you're not familiar with the Coffee Solo audio program, it started out as an exclusive for no reason. There was no deal. There was no partnership or arrangement. But I figured, I have this Ko-fi.com in addition to the buymeacoffee.com websites, which I had signed up for when I started podcasting from Vegas 5 years ago. And it's still there. So I figured, okay, so me, myself, and I created Buy Me an Update and published that only on buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts. And then I created Coffee Solo, which was intended to be an ad hoc, random, not random, but no agenda, no schedule, just whenever. And that would be published exclusively at kofi.com/danhugo/posts. Ko-fi as in ko-fi.com. I understand that it's a play on coffee, but it's not really coffee. It's Ko-fi. Anyway, to be clear that it's not a normal spelling, Ko-fi.com. So Coffee Solo, excuse me. Let me get my water here. It's actually, I have the air conditioner turned off when I record podcasts, so it doesn't add noise, because it does add quite a bit of noise, like a hiss, not a hiss, but anyway, not white noise, but somewhere in there, pink noise maybe, not brown noise either. So it's kind of warm. So I have some water. So nobody goes to buymeacoffee.com nor to kofi.com to listen to podcasts. So I figured, okay, exclusive is not really material here. So I publish first to those respective platforms, and then I publish to wherever else after. So if you've never heard this program before, now you know. If you visit, I'll get to the links in a second, but if you visit my personal vanity homepage, danhugo.com, you will find the episodes links for I'm sorry. Well, you'll find the episodes directly using the Spotify player for now, but hopefully that will change. If you visit there, you will find Coffee Solo and Buy Me an Update, which is published on Buy Me a Coffee. Coffee Solo published on Ko-fi.com. Okay, enough of that. I'll repeat that briefly, but in a moment. All that said, hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a not quite brief, but still brief summary, which I'll read to you, and then the links for the show. I very rarely add links to this show because it's just it's not intended to be a researched topic like my other programs. Occasionally, I think once or twice, I've added a link in there that seemed interesting, but for now, if I mention something, you will have to take it upon yourself to do a little searching or to look online or to follow up on something. I would consider having like a blog page associated with this program so I can publish it. And then if I find something relevant to add, if I find a link or if I do have a link, the onus would be on you to come by and check it out. Because again, if I'm creating the episode on the fly, I may not have researched a topic. And then if after I publish it, I say, oh, that's right, here's some supporting information, or here's the link for that event coming up. So I think that would be appropriate. So we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. I have too many things going on, which I'll get to over the course of this episode. In the meantime, the summary of today's episode is this. We live in a desert. We live in the desert. We live in the Mojave Desert. I'll add that right now. We live in the Mojave Desert. If I could type. We know we live in the desert. So announcing to people that we live in the desert is sort of silly, especially when it gets hot. And to be fair, deserts have extreme climates, so it also gets very cold in Vegas. It used to get very, very cold in Phoenix. It gets very cold in the desert, but also very hot. Thus, I'm not going to announce it, but I'm going to mention the time I was in Phoenix and it was hotter than anywhere else. True story. So, and I think it still holds. It's still in there. So in other words, this is not an episode about how it's so hot here. But it is more about how it's making headlines all the time, and there are heat warnings, and there's all this stuff. The heat warnings, okay, I can understand because it's the guise of safety. Vegas does have a homelessness problem. Actually, the people who are homeless have a homelessness problem, but there's a lot of people who are not living in a place with air conditioning or with some sort of cooling or shade, and that can be a problem. There are actual physical life-threatening dangers associated with the levels of heat. If you are unsheltered in any way and you don't have access to water, there are cooling stations, but how are you supposed to know about them if you are not checking the internet all the time on your phone that you don't have? So it's kind of a little bit of a disconnect, but I think there are people that do make an effort to be human, which is nice. But yeah, we live in the desert, so it's almost like every year there's a surprise. Like, oh yeah, that's right. It's going to be hot. And it used to be that the highest, well, okay, we're kind of in there. The highest temperatures would typically be right in the middle of July. So maybe a week ago would have been the peak. Looks like we're getting the peak now. So not horribly wrong. But if you're into climate and meteorology, then those days are significant that the peak has shifted to later in the year. I guess there's like a Godzilla El Nino going on. It's supposed to be quite intense. But, so yeah, I just have the first item is going to be a little bit of meandering about hot. The links as usual. Again, I didn't add anything. So it's that this episode, like every other, is first available at Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com /Dan Hugo, DANHUGO /posts, POSTS. You get some water. And then 2 hours later, usually 2 hours, but if it's late like this, I might publish at the same time. But I publish also on Spotify for creators, and so there's a Coffee Solo show, and there's a Buy Me an Update show. So I publish, in both cases, I publish it to the original namesake, and then usually 2 hours later, I publish it through Spotify, and then it appears on Spotify for creators, and then it appears on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, and all these platforms do is pull your RSS feed. So Spotify for creators, which used to be anchor.fm. So if you look at the RSS URL, anchor.fm. So YouTube, Apple, Spotify. No, not. I think Spotify does direct. Yeah, you're already handing it to us. But Apple, Amazon, YouTube, iHeartRadio, anyone else grabs the link, the RSS feed, and then grabs the latest episode and whatever. So that's the way podcasting is supposed to work. Publishing it to Ko-fi.com and buymeacoffee.com is an interesting idea. They do enable audio posts, but they don't support anything having to do with podcasting. So no RSS feeds, no subscription to RSS feeds. And so it kind of breaks the model. But I continue to do it because otherwise it doesn't make sense to have an episode of Buy Me an Update. What does that even mean? So I maintain that it's based on Buy Me a Coffee. There you go. Same with this show. So first available there. Then I mentioned my vanity, danhugo.com website. All it has right now, in the most ugly way possible, is Spotify player links to Coffee Solo and to Buy Me an Update. And then the profile page linking everything. The whole reason I signed up for these, buymeacoffee.com/danhugo. It's a freeform profile. You don't have to spend any money at any of these websites. But there I have actual link. I have a static links profile page. Ko-fi.com doesn't seem to have that. So I got to figure out some better way to make use of Ko-fi.com. I have it. I've had it for 5 years and 4 months. 4 months. Sometime in March I signed up. So it's 4+ months. March of 5 years ago. And so yeah, I should make better use of this in some way. So the profile page linking everything does include links to all of my audio programs, including this one, Quaggling Sand, FFS Talk, Cafe Genius Impresarios, and our nonprofit has, I put it on there because I produce it, but that's technically not quite the same. Let's Innovate for Vegas, for our foundation, Innovate for Vegas Foundation. So there you go. Those are the links. Now an outline. My mouth is dry. Hopefully I have enough water for today's episode. It is hot in Vegas. It is hotter in Phoenix at the same time. My parents still live in Phoenix. It's been hotter. They stay inside. That's good for them. I stay inside as much as possible. Good for me. It was the hottest in Phoenix on June 26, 1990. Did I get that date right? I think it was the 26th. I looked it up. Hottest day. Yes. June 26, 1990. It was 122 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe that was measured at the airport. So, there could be some plus or minus going on. It felt every degree of it, though. It was very hot. I had my first programming job that summer at a company called iPro. The company they were doing a couple different things. Their main focus for the summer, the owner had kids and friends, their friends. And so he brought them in. I guess he always hired his kids during the summer. And their job was to scan documents from law firms. So like every day, these file boxes, cardboard boxes, would show up, a lot of them. And their job was to very carefully maintain, don't mess up the box of files, but remove the folders, take the documents, run them through some Bell and Howell high-resolution monochrome scanners, and then they would archive these documents on what's called a worm drive, WORM, write once, read many, a precursor to optical storage. And honestly, I don't remember if worm drives were probably some form of optical storage, but they came in these cartridges. They were thick and they worked, but good. If you still have a worm drive cartridge, good luck trying to get the data off of it. So that's the fun of unusual media backups. Anyway, that was what they were doing. I don't know if iPro did other stuff. I think so. But archiving data was one of their things. So I was looking for a summer job. It was after my freshman year of college. I had my Volkswagen Bug that was left over from high school so I could get around. And this guy that owned the company was a friend of my mom. So she's like, oh yeah, he's an engineer. And he's like, oh, so maybe he could help us out with some projects we're working on. So I went over there, and the guy who interviewed me, nice guy, he said, can you program in C? And I said, I have not. And he said, can you learn? And I said, I think I can. And so that summer I taught myself the C programming language. I had already been doing Pascal for years, and I learned 6502 assembly. I learned Pascal on a VAX. I've talked about these in Quabbling Sand before. So I knew my way around computers, but C was the language that they were going to begin teaching at Harvey Mudd like a year, I think it was a year later. So we were the last year of Pascal, I think. And Pascal's fine. If you know Pascal, you can learn C pretty quickly. You will not know C, but you can learn it. So I went to the library. I got a K&R, Kerrigan and Ritchie, the book about C, the C programming language. Infamous, the K&R. That's what it's called. Got the book. They sat me down at a PCXT, IBM PCXT, 4 point whatever megahertz, blazing fast. And I started learning C. So that was right around my birthday. So it was only a few days before this record high temperature. So every day I would go in, and I was dressing nicely. I had a button down shirt, long sleeve, which is important. And so I'd go to work every morning, and they basically gave me like this unused office with boxes in it of other things, not legal files. So the morning of the 26th, so every day I would go to, my Volkswagen didn't have air conditioning. So every morning I would go to work, and it was still reasonably cool, probably in the 90s. So I would drive to work, and so I wasn't completely drenched. When I got to work, I would hold my left hand. So it was standard transmission, so I had to shift with my right, of course, as it should be. I would put my left hand out the window so that the air from outside would blow up the sleeve of my shirt, which was long sleeve, and it would help cool me off a little bit. So you got to do what you got to do. So I get to work. Now it's 100 degrees probably when I get to work. 122 degrees by lunchtime. Technically not true. Technically 122 degrees after lunch, but it felt like ridiculous. So I would just go home for lunch. I lived 5 miles away or something, my parents' house. So I opened the door to go outside from the office. Now, I should say the office had a whole bunch of Everex 286 machines, if you are familiar with that time of the computer timeline. 286, the Intel 8286. And they had a basic 4 mini mainframe and some other computer, and my PCXT, of course. So it was an office full of computer equipment, so they had to keep it running, with air conditioning on. So it was like 70 degrees. And I never really checked the thermostat, but they kept it at 70 just to make sure all the because there was a lot of computers. So 70 degrees. I opened the door to go outside, to go to my car, to go home for lunch. And if you think about it, I mean, you can experience something very close. If you happen to be in a place that's going to be 115 degrees, you're going to come pretty close. But I just remember just that little extra something when you open the door, and it's a 50-degree difference, approximately. But maybe it's a 48 degree. But I mean, if you think about it, I keep my thermostat 78, 79. And then when I go outside, when I leave my home, it's in a hallway, and then I go outside. So I am not blasted by outdoor temperatures in quite the same way. And the hallway is not kept at 70 degrees, etc. So if you can imagine keeping your home at 70 degrees wherever you are, and if it's 115, 120 degrees outside, you can give it a try. You can see what that was like. I will tell you, it was shocking, physically shocking. That's quite a what do you call it? A blast furnace effect. So you just feel like when you're opening the door, you're gonna draw some of that air in, and it was like, woof. Wow, it is hot. And of course, dry. There were times when the humidity in Phoenix in June was like single digit. I think I've seen it as low as 4%, but I don't know. But it was certainly not 30. It wasn't 10. So it's just super dry and super hot and just tricky. And some people they'll tell you like, oh, it's hard to breathe when it's that hot. Yeah, it can be. But just that feeling of a blast of heat. Now, arguably worse, I went home, had lunch, heading back to work, emergency vehicle. Okay. Went back to work. Now, My no normal people in Phoenix would keep their home at 70 degrees. That's just your electric bill is gonna be insane. So I want to say my parents kept the house at like 78, 70, 76, 78, probably 78. That's 77. That's a normal number. 75 is pushing it because that's going to be a hefty bill. Unless you need to be cooled off, you're better off having like a ceiling fan or an oscillating fan. And we had all that stuff. So yeah, you don't need to keep a home in Phoenix at 70 degrees. But the iPro offices, I don't know if it was 70 exactly, but they absolutely kept it much cooler than home because it's a business expense, right? You got to keep your computers running. So totally understandable. So I get back to the office. I go up the stairs. I open the door. I'm wearing my long sleeve shirt. I'm sweaty. It's hot outside. It's 1-ish in the afternoon now, coming back from lunch. So we're hitting the high temperature of the day, usually in the early afternoon. Now I'm going in from the blast furnace, which I'm now acclimated. I open the door to go in the office and it's 70 degrees. So now I'm dropping 50 degrees. And I was shivering at my computer for probably 20 minutes. So I recovered. Now it was almost as hot every day on either side of that. Now, but do keep in mind, I had just started working at this job. Like, I don't know what day of the week the 26th was. I guess I could look, but no matter. I started the job. A couple days later, it's 122 degrees out. Over the course of the summer, I would be acclimated to having that work environment. Everything would be fine. So it wasn't like a life-changing, but it was definitely memorable because I don't know that I had previously come across that temperature range on a regular basis as I was. So that was like the first literal blast in the face of like, oh, this is approximately 50 degree difference. It was shocking. So when I hear people talk, oh my God, it's so hot here. First of all, you go into any casino in Nevada and they have the air conditioner on. And that's pretty close to the experience that you'll get if you go. You can feel the air conditioner, the cold air coming out of casinos sometimes. You can walk along Fremont and you'll feel the air coming out of Golden Nugget or whatever. And you're like, oh, I can just stand here. I don't even have to go in the casino and get hassled. So that's the story. It's been hot in Vegas. That is not a surprise. It's what people do with that. And hopefully people don't die, but some will. And that's sad. I'm slowly but surely, you can call me Shirley in this case, slowly but surely inching my way toward the LinkedIn exit. I've been talking about this for too long. 3 years ago, I did a little, what would that even be? Lexit. I posted for 1 year every month. I think it was on the first of the month. I can't remember. I think it was, it was on the first of the month. So January 1st, February 1st, I would post how many days remaining. It was a Euro style exit. So a person in a square walking as if they're walking through a square doorway, green background. And then October, November, December, or technically November 1st, December 1st, January 1st, I guess. I made it a red sign as if to say this is an emergency exit. So every month for 1 year, I posted, I'm leaving. I prefer email. Here's my email address. And I kept pointing like my email address will remain in my profile. I'm not deleting my profile, but I am not going to use this anymore. And because 2023 was going to be 20 years. See what I did there? I signed up. LinkedIn launched in May of 2003. I signed up in August of 2003. 2023, 20 years on the platform. I've had enough. So I spent the whole year announcing that I'm not going to use the platform anymore. And then I stopped posting personal things to it. So the only things I've posted on my LinkedIn profile are reshares from the pages for Innovate for Vegas Foundation and Cafe Genius and stuff. Occasionally I've reposted other people's things if they seemed useful, but not much. I'll comment on a post now and then, and I will, do a celebrate or insightful reaction. That's about it. So I've really stopped engaging. I haven't stopped inviting people to connect. The network graph on LinkedIn is still not bad. It's still usable. So as I have now written, that was my little improv. I have mixed feelings about the professional network graph, which, who are you connected to, second, third order. The network graph is useful, which on the one hand can be useful. Hey, I just said that. But on the other hand is mostly a collection of people with whom I have connected over decades, some years in many cases now. And then more recently, months. I've added like 500 connections since January of 2026. So every time I need to connect with more teachers. I need to connect with people that work in the different cities because we're trying to do the Smarter Smart City Challenge for 2027. Nobody cares. Not, I could be hyperbolic and say I got zero response, but I wouldn't be too far off. So most people simply do not care. And LinkedIn is the worst possible place to find people who care. So that has been enough. Basically, the only people who interact are fake headhunters or recruiters. And you can always spot a fake one because they definitely want you to give them your Signal contact information. Let's move the conversation to Signal. That's as good as, please block me. I'm not a real recruiter. And then, was it Friday? I got one from a guy. Hi, it looks like you're really interested in civic innovation and entrepreneurialism or whatever. And so we're putting together a thing with some would you be interested? And I see you have 81 connections on LinkedIn, and you've also been in, you finished college before I did. So that's decades, right? And you have 81 connections. So I said, that's a red flag. You can tell me what the job is. If you ask me to connect with you on Signal, don't even bother sending that message. And he responded and said, oh, okay, thank you. Appreciate you being upfront with that. We're looking for people to join an AI startup, blah, 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 blah. And I responded and said, I'm not interested in AI startups. Good luck. So he could have been a human, but if you see somebody who's been in any industry for more than 20 years and they have 81 connections on LinkedIn, even if they hate LinkedIn, that's not enough connections. 81, that's wrong. That's a red flag. So, but at the same time, I had a recruiter, let's put that in air quotes, and we'll say it was a she, who knows? The picture was of the back of someone's head, like sitting on a rock or something silly. This very long message. And I said, and it said, I know you don't want to receive direct messages, so I'll email this to you also. So this person wrote me a direct message on LinkedIn and then emailed that message from LinkedIn. So what I receive is a return address to an obfuscated LinkedIn address. That is, you can email someone anonymously, quote unquote anonymously. I said, well, this undoes the reason for this. I really don't want to receive email from LinkedIn. If you're a person, you should send me an email and leave LinkedIn out of it, because I don't want, that's a full red flag, right? So I said, so since you did that, I'm just going to respond to you via the direct message that you originally sent me. I said, don't even bother with the Signal. I said the same thing. And this person responded through the same obfuscated LinkedIn email address. Oh, I'm happy that you're interested in the position. Why don't we move this conversation to Signal, blah, blah, blah. So by the time I got around to visiting LinkedIn again, the direct messages were gone, and I'm sure that person got flagged as a bogus headhunter. So good. But LinkedIn has been so catastrophically disappointing, definitely over the last 5 years, but just on a trend from 2023 to now, I'm done. So the network graph, interesting. Oh, we both know so-and-so. Okay. There are better ways to do that. LinkedIn has become so entrenched that it's almost like the Facebook, my entire family uses Facebook, I can't leave it. LinkedIn is sort of in that position, but it's just as awful, even more perhaps. I mentioned the Project Hail Mary reaction video cloud that appears to have taken over and engulfed YouTube. Like everybody is doing, even if they don't have a reaction channel, people are commenting about her. So I think I said this last week, last episode. I think it's almost like there was a package of clips that they wanted you to highlight because all the reaction videos have the same segments of the movie if you watch the YouTube version instead of the Patreon unedited, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, they must have handed out like in and out points. Like, yeah, we won't ding your reaction video if you only include these parts of the movie. Maybe something like that. I don't know. I don't know how the business works. But it was a good movie. And I've seen the movie. I read the book a couple years ago when it came out. And then the movie, well, the book went deeper into the science, went into a lot more detail, of course, and it was good. I mean, that was of the Weir books, that was my favorite. Artemis being my least favorite, but apparently that's going to get a movie. So whatever. I want to say, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, Artemis, I didn't enjoy that book, but I thought Project Hail Mary was better than The Martian. The Martian book was really good. The Martian movie, I liked the ending better than in the book. It was a little more exciting. It was well done. So I liked The Martian, and I liked the movie Hail Mary. Now, I did read the book, like I said, and there are people that are like, it's not the same as the book. That's how movies work. So I have no problem with that. I wrote that the niggles that be, that's the what do you call it? The centrifuge. You put the vials both on the net, and you have to put them on opposite sides. Yeah, okay, sure. Some people are worried that it took me out of the movie. Like, come on. He's talking to a rock. It was well done, but it was a puppet. So if that didn't take you out of the movie, if you were invested, and it was, he put the vials on the together in the centrifuge. That's it. I'm done. Yeah, you need to enjoy life more. So people were harping on this and that, and it was a good movie though. The movie was fine. It was definitely, it did have a lot of depth, and every person or group that has reacted to it that I have seen pretty much has the same take. Emotional roller coaster. Not what I expected. I thought it was going to be this, but it turned out to be a really nice friend story, and they came through and they really fit together nicely and all this stuff. And it is interesting because of the nature of their, the story, the nature of the situation with, I don't want to give too much away, but had they not run into each other and been able to develop a way to communicate, they would not have achieved the mission. I think they would not have accomplished the mission. So, from a practical standpoint, it's a good thing they did run into each other. But yeah, they had complementary skills, and they developed, they really illustrated this mission-oriented drive, getting over obstacles, putting up with each other, impossible situation, whatnot. So the whole movie is really nice. It's a really nice movie. It reminds me of movies like Apollo 13, which was not entirely accurate. Again, that's how movies work, but it was still based on a true story. Of course, the Apollo 13 catastrophic failure of the oxygen tank stir, which led to energetic disassembly and problem. Houston, we have a problem. So, but it was a great movie. And The Abyss, which was, of course, a completely fictional movie, but the same sort of thing where people have to come together and solve problems and in unusual circumstances. And surely many more movies like that. These sorts of movies seem to do well when the situation is impossible, like really deep underwater for The Abyss, out in space for Apollo 13, and really far out in space for Project Hail Mary. There must have been something in a volcano at some point. I know Tom Hanks had a movie called Joe versus the Volcano, but there's always like an impossible scenario, and then people have to do magic. They have to come through. And hang on, I'm going to pause for 1 second. All right, we're back. There was some hay made that Project Hail Mary is interesting because the hero he doesn't have magical powers. Everything doesn't go his way. The Avengers, the what do you call it? What's the universe? There's Marvel, the MCU, Marvel something universe, Marvel comic universe, Marvel whatever it is. So these are heroes. They have magic powers. You have a lot of money, maybe that's your power. But these are all people that like everything goes their way, and even when it doesn't, it eventually does. So some people did comment when they were writing reviews that the interesting thing about Project Hail Mary is that he, first of all, he didn't want to go, obviously. You learn that very early on. Like, what am I doing here? And so that may have been a spoiler, but if you saw the trailers for the movie, a lot of stuff was spoiled in the trailers, and the movie is still fine. Everybody loves it. So not a huge deal. But he's just a guy, and he uses his knowledge and his insights, and that's what happens. The Rocky character has other skills that are complementary. So again, the two of them together are able to accomplish probably what neither could have on their own. So that's nice. That's a good take home. The Apollo 13, obviously they're trained astronauts, but they were presented with an unheard of scenario, right? This wasn't supposed to happen. And so everybody had to pull together, all the vendors that had, and the design companies, the contractors who had built the different systems. Hey, why does the square peg in a round hole problem with the lithium hydroxide scrubbers for removing CO2 from air so they could breathe? So, and then the abyss. So it was trained astronauts, but it was like pulling people together to use their expertise and to be creative with it. So the fact that they were trained kind of went out the window, because like, we're trained, but not for this. So they had to just go with what they knew with the best intentions, hopefully. And then the abyss, you just had this impossible situation with people that were just working on this rig. Kind of has an Alien feel to it, right? The Alien movie, Alien. These were not, they always say they're space truckers. None of them were combat trained. They were just hauling whatever ore or whatever, the Nostromo. So they were put in an impossible. So anyway, the take home is that the way people work together is a compelling movie or story. It's a compelling story. It could be a movie or whatever. So it's interesting. It will be interesting to see if there's going to be more movies like this, given the kind of the overwhelming realization that, oh, that's right. You can make a really good movie if it's based on a book. Okay. But you can make a really good movie where people, when they finish watching the movie, I don't know if people remember these days, but this used to happen a lot back in the 80s, which is why reaction channels do a lot of movies from the 80s. People used to leave the movie theater and they would talk about the movie like, oh, that was really good when they said that. And I was really impressed by that. When the Terminator did the thing and then they run through it, got pushed out the window or flew out the window when he was shot with right? Like people would talk about the experience, the effects, the take-home message. Sometimes there was meaning. Sometimes it was just entertaining. So Project Hail Mary brought some of that back. I don't know if people would finish watching Theranos. Was that his name? The MCU. When he snapped and half the whatever. And like at the end of that were people going, wow, that really made me feel, or was more, wow, I can't believe he like deleted half the universe. Like just kind of silly, but not really meaningful. I'm not saying they were devoid of meaning, but Project Hail Mary is overflowing with meaning and take home, lasting impact, right? When you leave the theater, you're going to be thinking about like, yeah, you know what? If only one of them had made it, they wouldn't have been able to, and yeah, I can't believe at the end he made that decision. I wonder if I would make that decision. And so there's a lot of stuff where people are reflecting in these reaction videos. You can actually see that. But I have to imagine, even, and after I watched the movie, because I hadn't read the book in a couple of years, but, you're like, the decision at the end, there's really no choice. I think in the book, it's even more clear. Like, there's really no question which of the two choices are going to be made. So I just find it interesting. And actually, if you do happen to have seen or you intend to see Apollo 13, that's a true-ish story. So can't really spoil anything. The section where they do have to make the square peg in the round hole scenario work, I've often referred to that. I've said, if you're going to work with a team of people, you really want to work with that team of people. Obviously not literally, but you want to have people that you're like, okay, we got to solve this problem. It's a real problem and we got to solve it right now. And here's what we have. And instead of people going, oh, Instead they just go, yeah, we got to do this. Let's do it. And you kind of bring your creativity out and all that. I think those are the sorts of things that if we had more of that, there was no magic power, there was no ring or hammer or beam, there was no robotic suit, right? This was people, we got to solve this problem with what we know, and here's the pieces that we have to use to fix this, and we have to save people's lives. And from what I understand, it wasn't exactly like that. You take some liberties for drama, but so the movie version of that is informative, probably not authoritative. But either way, here's a problem and we have to solve it, and they're in space. There's no extra pieces that we can deliver to them. So here's what they have available. And you got to write a procedure, but it has to work. That's I'm not going to say it's exciting, but that's where you really find out who you can count on, who's going to come through. And you get the same sort of feeling with Rocky and Grace. Like, for as much as they were annoying each other for a chunk of the kind of the middle of the movie, they didn't know each other. And it is sort of humorous if you think about it. Like, and it's almost like that movie Paul, the Seth Rogen movie with what's the guy's name? Simon Pegg and his friend. And I think Seth Rogen was the voice of Paul. So they find this alien and he's just a normal dude, except he's an alien. So yeah, you're like, I can't believe I met an alien. Oh, he's so annoying. He's getting on my nerves. Like, that's sort of humorous. But yeah, the whole thing, see the movie if you haven't seen it already. I'm going to assume you have. I think I've mentioned City Camp on here. I've talked about it during the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. It's a thing that was created by the original founder of Code for America. The idea is to engage with your city governments and agencies and local news and media outlets and normal people. And you look at systems and how we could solve problems. And it's just a time when people could engage and say like, oh, okay. So this is how we would propose a solution, or here's who we would talk to about. I found a beehive. Who do I call? That's a true story. Literally could not find anyone who would say, oh yeah, you called this person. It was like, oh, is it on the sidewalk or is it in the park? I'm like, it's a beehive with aggressive bees across the street from an elementary school. Does anyone care? And to be honest, couldn't find anyone that said yes. So, excuse me, a little water there. So, yeah, the idea for City Camp is I don't like the name. I'll tell you that right now. But I figured, okay, this would be an interesting introduction because we do have our all-year Smarter Smart City Challenge for 2027. So this is all Innovate for Vegas Foundation stuff. So the planning the event for World City Camp Day, which is on September 19th. And when I say we, that's me. I'm planning this. So September 19th, it's a Saturday. It's just one day. It's fascinating to me just how proactively uninterested every single person I reached out to seems to be here in our Vegas oasis, which has been calling itself a global hub of innovation. So there are several problems. I talk about them a lot in the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, which is linked in the Buy Me a Coffee profile page. There are many issues I can see on the horizon about what people believe is possible by declaring it. So, hey, we're a global innovation hub. And you're like, do the people who live here know that? And I would say they do not. So I don't think there's a realistic notion of what it actually takes to get to this. We're a global hub of innovation. We just don't have any talent pool that can support that notion. So you're going to have to bring your own. And, oh, look at this, gentrification. If you ever read, there's a book called Lost in Austin. It's about how Austin tried to become the next Silicon Valley, and it crushed its culture. If you are an Austin person, the keep it weird mantra, just everything, it pushed a lot of the people in the service industry and the leisure and hospitality industry, pushed them out farther, and there was not really public transit, so not everybody could, it just wasn't thought out. And I can see exactly the same things about to happen here in Vegas, so we'll see. We'll talk about this again. I'm sure it will come up. But I'm thinking about canceling City Camp because just nobody cares. And it's a one-day event, so it's kind of all or nothing. We're absolutely not going to have an event when 5 people show up. So screw that. So So I'm like, I don't know if City Camp is going to happen. We should just push everything over to Smarter Smart City Challenge, because that's going to last all year. If people don't know about it on January 2nd, they might learn about it on February 2nd, and that's totally fine. So I don't like the notion of having a single day event, and I don't like the name, and I don't think people will be drawn to that. Like City Camp, what the hell is that? But if it's Smarter Smart City Challenge all year, then we can start hyping it now for January just to kick off. That makes a lot more sense. And because I have gotten so little, negative interest almost, I'm surprised someone didn't pick up the phone, call me specifically and say, I literally don't care about this. It almost seems like they would think that's worth the effort. I'm not going to call anyone ever, except for this time. I'm going to call and say just how not interested I'm going to be and not how unhelpful I want to be. So, yeah. So that's kind of my take home right now. I'm not totally thrilled with how this is going. We might have to dump City Camp. I'm going to say there's more than a 50% chance. If I'm being honest, it's a lot more. So it's very unlikely that City Camp will actually happen. It's more likely, if we're going to do this, that it would be City Camp 2027, and it would be during the Smarter Smart City Challenge. Then it would just be a part of the ball rolling. The whole reason we added City Camp to the calendar, remember we as I, was we were going to kick off Smarter Smart City Challenge this year, but it was already getting into March, April. I'm like, nobody is jumping at the bit here. Nobody's like, oh yes, this sounds, and I'd started my press outreach. Hey, does anybody have any interest in? No? Okay. So local media in Vegas is absolutely worthless when it comes to this stuff. If we had some Cybertrucks to donate, or if we were going to destroy a resort and then rebuild a different one, or if we were a professional sports team or criminals, they'd be all over us. I'd be pushing them away with a stick. But hey, we want to enable young people and people of all ages in the greater Vegas area to participate in a, hello? No? Okay. Literally, if there's a way to short Vegas, I think I would. Flood economy, make that work again. They've completely dropped the ball on that. So Vegas is a city always reinventing itself because it doesn't know what it's doing. So it has to reinvent itself. All right, I'll get off that soapbox for the now, but it will come up again. I'm going to be honest. I hope this AI bubble will just hurry up and burst. It's getting ridiculous. I just read yesterday. It might have been this morning. It might have been Saturday morning. Today. I just read that NVIDIA secured a huge memory buy. I don't know if it was like $500 billion or something ridiculous from SK Hynix. I don't know if I think it was SK Hynix. I don't know if SK Hynix is making DRAM or if they're just making flash, SSDs. But either way, they got to, both of those are ridiculously priced because everybody, they're buying up everything. Can I store bits and get them back? Yeah, but it's a house plant. I'm buying it. Give me all your house plants. Everything must go. So I think let's say it was SK Hynix and maybe it was SSDs, but they're buying up everything. So it's being taken out of the market, all this technology when it comes to computing hardware. And it's almost like they actually want to remove the ability for normal people like myself to participate. I'm a software engineer, right? I have a computer, luckily. Knock wood that it doesn't fail. I haven't bought a new computer in years because I'm like, this one works fine. At this point now, I'm like, it better keep working fine. But everybody needs a computer if they're doing AI related or not AI related computer science, computer engineering, right? If you're a startup company, and it's like, oh yeah, sorry, computers now cost 8 times what they did a year ago. You're like, well, I can't hire as many people. Oh, that's okay. Just use AI. So is that a strategy? Is that we're going to price humans out? Just use our cloud. So you don't have to buy any computers or people. You don't have to, pay people. Just submit all of your intellectual property to our chat client. And we promise we won't share it or store it in our model. So even cell phones, prices of cell phones are going to go up because memory is in short supply. I'm shaking my head. I'm shaking my head wildly at the moment. I wonder if Trump, I just saw something later today, 2 hours ago or something. Is Trump going to bail out the AI companies we got to continue competition with China? China has like 10% of the data centers that we have in the United States. 10%. I think it's 10%. I think it's like 500 and we have 5,000, or maybe it's close, right? Maybe we have 4,500 and they have 470 or so. Anyway, call it 10%. And so we got to keep building. We just got to. We cannot let up. So yeah, I think it's ridiculous, and it's crushing normal people. It's throwing this fake job market like chaos all over the place. Companies are quietly rehiring people because AI doesn't actually deliver on the promises. But don't tell anyone. Yeah, so I don't know if Trump or his administration is going to jump in and like prop up these companies, which are accounting and honesty nightmares from an investment standpoint. But if the whole stock market collapses as gas prices are going up, yeah, so there will be perverse incentives to continue to screw over everyone. And I'm concerned that will come up again as well in the future. The Greater Vegas, we're almost done, I promise. The Greater Vegas startup scene has a lot of hype from what I can tell. This is fitting. This is a fitting end for the title of this episode. Is Vegas the next anything? Is Vegas the hot new place for startups, for fintech, for everybody seems to think that it is the place. It is the definition of the fun economy right now, right? But they can't even seem to maintain that with a drop off in tourism and whatnot. There are other factors at play, of course, but so, and the whole, we got to keep reinventing ourselves. But suddenly it's the best place in the world for everything, from finance to tech to manufacturing to healthcare. Obviously professional sports. Oh, you got to have every sport in Vegas. It goes without saying. It's amazing. It literally is amazing. I have already said a lot about this in the past. We need data. When I say these things, I'm mostly anecdotal. So we need data. We need to start capturing how people feel about it on the ground who live here. We got to start looking at what the actual impact is. The LVGEA, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, and I'm sure they're going to name themselves Southern Nevada now, because EDON in Reno or Washoe County just renamed themselves from EDON, which is the Economic Development something. I should have looked this up because I forgot it the other day too. Yeah, yesterday. I think it's the Economic Development Association. I can tell you what it is. I'm going to look it up right now because I should have looked. The Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada. There you go. And so they've renamed themselves to Northern Nevada now, if I'm not mistaken. EDON Nevada, rename. Let me make sure I'm correct about this. Rebrands itself, becomes Northern NV now. And Southern Nevada, the LVGA has already announced that they're going to rename, but they haven't announced what that new name is. But it's probably because they're forming this statewide alliance authority. And they already have the name for that, and I cannot remember what it is, but it's basically the Nevada statewide version. It's not a government-aided entity. It's a public-private partnership with government, so probably a nonprofit. The LVGA committed to quarterly updates on their 3-year impossible economic diversification strategy starting in June, so we're a month into it. Quarterly updates on progress. But who are they going to share this with? Certainly not the people who live here who will be impacted by it. They're going to post something on LinkedIn. And that'll be it. And then they'll have a lunch. Oh, we're having our quarterly lunch if you're a member of whatever. So it's absolutely insane. Insanity. It's absolute insanity. Why am I shaking my head again? But yeah, we need actual data from the ground, like who's going to start losing jobs, who's going to be impacted from the economics of this with what I think will lead to gentrification, or if some of the stuff that they hand wave is actually happening. Data, like I just saw this thing from a guy, he's in Reno, but he works for Generator, which is whatever. I don't even want to talk about that, but he's like, the data center marketplace and the Southern Nevada has Tech Alley, and everybody thinks that's amazing. And you're like, okay. Just a collection of things that are based on hand waving and based on check boxes, right? It would be like the Titanic. I don't know if you remember the story. The Titanic had a certain passenger complement, right? Had a certain number of people on board. I don't remember what the number was. I bet if I looked up Titanic lifeboats, I would find out exactly what I'm trying to describe here. Oh, shortage. Yeah. Titanic lifeboat shortage. So the Titanic did not have enough lifeboats to hold everyone on board. It carried 20 lifeboats, which could hold a total of 1,178 people. These are big lifeboats. Because there were approximately 2,240 passengers, so almost double, 2,356, I think, would be 2x. So almost double number of passengers as lifeboat capacity. So about half of the people. And then, okay, so there's a few different reasons, but, interesting. They didn't treat them as emergency evacuation vehicles at the time. They were viewed as a utility. They were intended to bring people to other ships and to wherever, back and forth. So the ship was not supposed to be, this is an unsinkable Titanic. Anyway, so you could look at it, though, for the purposes of my example. Do we have lifeboats just in case? This is an unsinkable ship, but yes, we do have lifeboats, so we're good. Check. So I think people are assuming, oh yeah, we're Nevada. Everybody keeps talking about how awesome we are. Are we going to be able to pull this off? Absolutely. Check. And I don't know. So that's why I think more data and more transparency are essential. So that's been something that's been on my mind now. I think there's a lot of effort that needs to be done. I also kind of think that there's an opportunity here to empower the people of a region to demand transparency, visibility at least, transparency really at least, and then observability would be nice. But transparency, like, yeah, you said you're going to do quarterly updates, but you're really not. So why don't we show some numbers? And I don't want the hand-waved, oh, we created 500 jobs this quarter. How many of those were construction jobs? Those are not permanent. They're transient jobs. The people working on those jobs are not even going to be there for the whole time of the project. They finish their subcontractor fraction of the project is, and then they go to something else. So I think there's an opportunity to connect data capture and reporting on this stuff so that normal people can consume it and say, oh, okay, we're getting screwed here again. And if you want an example of that, you can look up any of the stories about Formula One races in Las Vegas and how people who live here really feel about Formula One. And then you'll go, oh, okay, not as cool as everybody says. That's true of a lot of things. So anyway, that's the stuff on my mind for today. It's been over an hour. I didn't think this would go that long, so I don't want to keep you. I do kind of want to keep you, but that's a different story. So I'm going to leave it here. I usually end with anything else, and then if anything pops into my mind, but I think it's time to go. It's been a nice evening. I should try to break these into shorter episodes and not necessarily focus on purpose, because these are supposed to be technically unscripted would be nice, but they're not supposed to have an agenda. They're not supposed to be topic focused. They're supposed to be whatever. And so I could break these into smaller episodes. So I could have done an entire episode on just my views on Vegas, on the temperature and on the economic diversification efforts. That could have been one episode. And then everything else I said today would have been another one, and so on. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to visit the, not to spend money, but buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You'll find out where all my other audio programs are if you've never heard them before. They're all cross-linked through the Buy Me a Coffee URL. So so I don't promote myself or my other projects in the context of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program, but I promote that. So it's a one-way promotion in that case, because the nonprofit is not a vehicle for my benefit. So that's how I roll. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Okay, enough. You've had enough of me, I can tell. I will leave you with that, and I'll catch you later. Thank you for listening as always. Bye-bye.